Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's OnTrack Plus live learning session. My name is Lucy Lopez, and I'll be your host for this exciting conversation about entrepreneurship, branding, and the journey from student to CEO. The insights shared today reflect one entrepreneur's path, but we encourage you to explore different resources, perspectives, and opportunities as you shape your own career. We're thrilled to have a very special guest with us today, Ethan Dowie, founder and CEO of Indigo Promotions. He'll share his journey as a college athlete and first-time nonprofit founder and how that helped him build a thriving business from the ground up. Let's get started. So Ethan Dowie is the founder and CEO of Indigo Promotions, a minority-owned business dedicated to crafting branded merchandise that makes an impact. In just 5 years, Indigo has partnered with major brands like Zappos, Bloomberg, Google, Boston Beer, and MAC Cosmetics. Ethan's story is all about resilience, adaptability, and the power of relationships. He went from a college athlete striving for the Olympics to launching a nonprofit, then building a multi-million-dollar company, all before the age of 30. Today, he's here to talk about the ups and downs of starting a business from scratch, how discipline from sports shaped his entrepreneurial journey, the power of branding, and how products can tell a company's story. So Ethan, welcome. Great to have you here. I know that the first time I met you was several years ago in our studio, and that's when you had your nonprofit that you were starting. And it's been a long journey since then. So the floor is yours, and we're excited to hear your presentation.
I appreciate all of you for having me. It's definitely an honor to speak to you all, especially the OnTrack students. Special shout out to Joe and Lucy, though, for really extending this invite to me. I'm definitely going to take full advantage of it for sure and try to educate everybody as much as I can on what we do and really give them actual life lessons that they can use in their everyday life. Before I get started, I feel like when I was in high school and college, I would always be listening to people speak. And sometimes I would walk away and I didn't really feel like it was relevant to me and I didn't have actionable next steps. So that's one of my biggest goals today, just to give you actionable next steps that you can actually put into your everyday life and really use and learn. So now I'm ready to get started. And we can go to that next slide. So early on, and actually entering college, this is a secret between me and all of us in this room. I truly did not have a business bone in my body. I did not know what the meaning of entrepreneurship was. My dad actually chose that major at random, which is super funny thinking about that now. And really, my whole mission, as Lucy said in college, was to run track and qualify for the Olympics. There was absolutely nothing else on my mind. I enjoyed class sometimes. I used it as a way that I could excel in track just to make sure I can always compete and whatnot. But when I got to college, I really didn't have my mind set on starting a company or doing any type of business. It was just all track 24/7. And there were a lot of positives in that. I think from sports, you learn a ton of things. I'm sure many of you are student athletes. And for me, it was really mostly about time management, figuring out how to really take orders well, almost like you're a soldier on the track or on the court or whatever. And it was just understanding how to be coached and how to learn from different people who were on my team and were coaches on the team. So it was truly one of the most fun opportunities that I've ever had running D1 track. And it was something that I'll get to later on, but has really helped me in my business world and really the day-to-day of running Indigo. And you can go to the next slide. So along the way, I ended up growing a business bone and I did start to understand what was cool about business and what was fun about business. And a lot of it came from my time in the classroom. I actually, during my sophomore year of college, I started working at a camp specifically for children with cancer. And off the top of your head, when you're hearing that, you're probably thinking like, what a bummer that must have been every single day. And that's really what I thought when I was getting the job. I was hired for it and I was thinking like, all right, I'm going to make some summer cash. This is going to be really cool. And luckily, it actually turned into the opposite. Day one, I remember meeting all these kids who had all these health issues and all these challenges in their life. And what was really cool was they showed up every single day to camp with a smile on their face. They were the most lovable kids of all time, so cool, so friendly. And it was something that truly had an impact on my life forever because it really taught me that no matter what you're dealing with, it's really not that bad. And you should always just have a smile on your face and a positive attitude. And that's something that I've been able to bring into business, my relationships, my friendships, whatever. So from there, I was like, all right, I got this amazing community of health challenged kids. What can I take that I'm learning in college and almost use it to my advantage to give back to them? So that's when I took everything from the classroom that I was learning about business and entrepreneurship, and I actually started my own nonprofit organization with the whole goal of helping these kids. The name of the company was called Dowie Corp. Real creative, I know, just my last name with Corp added to it. And the goal was to host these sporting events, dodgeball tournaments, track meets, you name it, and then take all of the money and just donate it to the kid with cancer, specific people at the camp, the organization as a whole, and just see really where that took me. It's been a wild ride since then. It's been a ton of fun. We actually hosted a dodgeball tournament a few years ago, a track meet, even years before that, and have since raised thousands of dollars for this one organization. And hopefully, in my mind, hopefully I've actually made an impact on those children's lives. And you go to the next slide. So, from there, that was my junior, senior, and first year out of college that I hosted the nonprofit. But really, as I was running the day-to-day of Dowie Corp, I started to realize that I loved what I was doing, but I know for a fact that I could create a business that's on a larger scale. And those thoughts really started to seep into my mind of how can I make a bigger company that could one day grow into this behemoth of an organization. And, my first year out of college, I had a job for about a year and a half. And oh boy, I was not happy to be at this job because the only thing on my mind was, how am I going to eventually pivot this into another company? So I actually, at this, random job that I had for about a year and a half, I handled a lot of the day-to-day orders or the monthly event orders for branded merchandise. Logo t-shirts, water bottles, speakers, you name it. I was in charge of ordering a lot of these items. And every interaction I had with the companies we were dealing with was negative. It wasn't positive. It wasn't like a good experience. And we were paying these companies a lot of money to make these items for us. So the idea started seeping into my mind of, hey, this type of company makes a lot of money and they're really not doing a great job. I feel like I could be doing a better job. And there was really where Indigo was born, just a problem that I was having. And then I pretty much rolled that over into a new business. I didn't know anything though. I didn't know how to source items. I didn't know how to create all these custom items. I didn't know how to get outside funding. I didn't know anything. All I had was really my pre-existing relationships, my experience from Dowie Corp, and my experience of business from high school and college. So that's really where we started. It was kind of scary because I was leaving this, job that was a decent opportunity for the unknown. But to me, I just knew that I was meant to run a company and run a business and grow an organization. And that's why I ended up starting Indigo in 2021 at the age of 23. And I really never looked back since. And you can go to the next slide. So, since then, and this is actually a funny story, day one of starting Indigo, it was February 25th, 2021. I told myself, look, I don't have any clients. I barely have any idea what I'm doing, to be completely frank with you. But all I have is a bunch of people that know me, and that's who I'm going to hit up. So I made a pact to myself that I'm going to make 500 cold calls in a month and cold call companies of all types, big companies, small companies, companies in my area, people who don't know me, people who do know me, just cold call away. I pick up the phone, dial the number, say some stuff into the phone, and kind of figure it out. Well, I went over 495. So I made 495 phone calls without making a single client. We're pretty much making no progress. And again, because I really didn't know what I was doing. Then on that 496th call, I actually called the logo that you're seeing in the top left corner, Zappos.com, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of in Las Vegas. And I was very fortunate to get a very nice person on the phone who passed our info along, which is a classic line that people say, and mentioned that they might reach out. And that ended up becoming one of my biggest clients even to this day. They've ordered, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of items from me in the present. And that all started from one phone call of a man who did not know what he was doing and really just had no general idea of business as a whole. But I was very fortunate because I wasn't scared and I didn't have any fear of, these people thinking I was foolish or thinking I was idiotic or anything like that. I just went into it with a fresh frame of mind of, you know what, if other people can do it, so can I. And when I get that client, I'm going to learn. And since then, we've luckily been able to partner with Bloomberg, Zappos, MAC Cosmetics, Vox Media, really just all types of companies who are doing different types of merchandise. And the whole time I was just telling myself, how do I make this different? That was the whole goal. It was just, how do I make this different and energetic and positive for the people that we're going to service? Year one was just about learning the industry and learning how to make merchandise. Year two was just finding more people to sell to. But then when we got to year three, it was really about doing that at scale, bringing in different employees to almost figure it out with me and just take it day by day. And, that's something that I think I've learned along the way, that you don't have to know everything at the beginning. You can really just learn as you go. And that alone has helped us work with some of these amazing companies that has grown Indigo into a $1 million company, which has been awesome. And you can go to the next slide. So, I mentioned it a little bit, but there's so many takeaways just from my story alone. And I say that because I wasn't somebody that went in with this amazing Harvard business degree or anything of that sort. I really just went in with a fresh frame of mind of, if someone else can do this, then I can take the time to work hard and learn it. And then from there, it's really just about positioning yourself as someone who's unique and different and really willing to do whatever it takes. That's a line that I say to my clients all the time. We're going to do whatever it takes to make this work, because I truly mean it. Because no matter what, I'm always going to be the person that will go to whatever length to make whatever project work out, to win whatever project, to make whatever item arrive on time. And, that's been the biggest lesson, just having to have that mindset, and then you can grow into whatever you want. On top of that, I think if I didn't have the relationships that I had in college and high school and, post-college and being able to network with new people, we would never have grown. So I would, challenge a lot of the students here, a lot of the ONTRACK students and really everybody to really take note of every interaction that you have. If you're someone who, consistently rubs people the wrong way and has like a negative outlook on things, that's not something that's going to grow relationships. You got to be someone that always goes in seeking the positive and just with a friendly attitude and a willingness to learn. Because I've done that, I feel like so many people have been willing to educate me on business as a whole, relationships as a whole, and just the proper way to do things. So, for me, that's been something that has helped grow my company into what it is today. And it's definitely cool, very cool to be able to share it with you all. And again, thank you so much for having me. I definitely am very excited to get all of your questions. I really hope that some of this is helpful for the ONTRACK students, and you can take this and learn and just be like, wow, that guy can do it, then I can too, because that really is what you should be thinking. But if that is not enough, I always like to leave a little bit extra on the table for sure and help people out a little bit more. If everyone here that attended, the ONTRACK students, if you go on Instagram, give me a follow. It's at Ethan Dowie right here, and DM me the word meeting. If any of you have any business ideas or anything that you didn't get from my presentation, I would love to hop on a quick call with you all, 10 to 15 minutes, just to kind of push you in the right direction and show you how to start a business, what to do, brainstorm with you a little bit. That is something that I love doing. So if you just message me on Instagram, the word meeting, I'll know exactly what that means and I'll know you were on the calls.
So as I was listening to your presentation, one of the things that really stood out was how you made almost 500 calls, and at like 496 or 497, finally somebody answered. So I want you to talk about the importance of those phone calls, because, I've worked with a lot of students and interns in the past, and it's easier to send an email or a text and hope that somebody gets back to you. But what I usually tell them is, it's easy to ignore an email, and it's much harder to ignore a phone call that comes to you.
Absolutely. And, that's some people weren't answering, but other people were just slamming the phone, hanging up on me as well. So it was definitely a little bit of everything. But for me, I think it's a reframing of what a lot is. Like going into that, I was like, wow, I made 10 phone calls today. That's so much. I was doing it for a month and was making 20, 30, 50, 60 in a day to no results. There was no results on the horizon. So I think after that, I kind of changed my mindset of, all right, so I have to do 400 or 500 calls just to get one client. And that reframing really helped me, because then it was like, all right, as long as I'm just thinking of it like that, then all of the no's I'm getting, they aren't hurting me as much. They're not making me, cry or being sad or anything like that. It's more so just like, okay, let me get to that 500 calls so that I can get my next client. It was almost like I was reframing it in a positive way. And I definitely think phone calls are the number one way to get to people. In a world of everyone trying to get everybody's attention, if you hear somebody's voice and they sound genuine, that's something that nobody is going to pass up on at least having a conversation with somebody.
And also, I think having a thick skin. How important is that? Because you have to, like you said, people were hanging up on you, and you have to be able to push past that and be optimistic, and to remain optimistic, and to remain motivated, right?
Yeah, and I don't think there's there's no one in business, or there's no one that has grown a business that, to me, isn't like that has seen success. It's almost like a trait that you have to develop. And I think the sports definitely kind of have transitioned me to be like that, because when you're playing a soccer game and people are in the crowd shouting negative things at you on the other side, the only option is just to ignore it. So I really feel like you just have to have this tunnel vision of, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. It might be painful and it might be hurtful to get all these no's now, but I know that I have to do that to make it to where I want to make it to.
One of the things that really also stood out to me was that you were, for the company you were with, you were trying to get these promotional items, but the people you were speaking to were not doing a good job at it, and you wanted to do it better. And I know that you always bring a lot of energy whenever I've spoken to you to order any product, help design a t-shirt or whatever the case may be. And it just reminded me of the health food chain out there, the grocery store, and their motto is to satisfy and delight. We could name it, it's Whole Foods, and that's their whole, motto is to satisfy and delight. And, they want to make sure that their customers get the best possible experience out there. So did you intentionally have that in mind when, you set out on this journey, or did it happen organically for you?
I think I feel like when I was early on, I was just thinking of what stuff that I can do that doesn't cost any money, really. And being positive and just bringing that energy every single time, it's free. And I just felt like you have to do it. I tell my team all the time, we have a team of 5 now, and I say, no matter what email or what call or what somebody says to you, always start the conversation positive. Whatever you have to say, whether it's, I hope you had a good weekend, I hope you're well, I don't care what it is, just always start positive, because I feel like from there we can get into all the details and the stuff we have to. But if you're keeping people happy and, they know that you're a good person and have no ill intentions or ill will against them, I think that's half the battle nowadays.
So I want to talk about mentoring, because I know that, what you did right now, asking students to reach out to you on Instagram, that's how mentoring starts, starting a conversation and almost mentoring it forward, paying it forward. So I know that you've had a lot of mentors in your life. How important was it to have different mentors in different fields, but also in different parts of your journey?
You absolutely need, I feel like the best way to do it is you need a bunch of mentors that are almost at different stages for you as you level up. Like if I think of a mentor I had when I was in high school, it's completely different than a mentor I have now. And rightfully so. That's how it should be, because whether it's a high school coach that you had that you look up to, that you're like, oh, this guy's amazing, versus now, I'm being coached by one of the top entrepreneurs in the world, and I'm in his coaching program. And it's like, to think back to where I was at, of who was kind of teaching me all the lessons I was getting and stuff in high school, you just are constantly leveling up and meeting these checkpoints and figuring stuff out along the way. But if you don't start with one, I couldn't have started with the guy I'm with now. It wouldn't have made any sense. He would have looked at me and been like, you're not ready. So you need people to mold you into the person that's ready for the opportunity that's going to come your way.
So what is next now for Indigo Promotions? What are you working on that you could give us a sneak peek about? While we wait for students to type in their questions, let's talk about, what are the next steps for you?
Well, there's one word that I want everybody that's listening now to write down that I think, to me, it's the most important word in my life, and that is BHAG, spelled B-H-A-G. And for anyone that doesn't know what that word stands for, it stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And that's something that I think everybody, every single person on this call, every single person that is in the world should have. They should have a big, hairy, audacious goal that scares them, that gets them out of the bed in the morning, that they hear it and they read it every day and they're like, wow, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, I hope I accomplish that. And that's really, what I've been doing for the past few months. I've been developing what my BHAG is. And my BHAG heavily involves Indigo and how I want to grow it. And I will share it with everybody. And when I say it, the reaction you're all going to have of like, oh, is that even possible? That's what your BHAG is supposed to do for you. And for me, my BHAG is to grow Indigo Promotions into a world-leading company that does at least $50 million in revenue. That's what I want. That's what I want for my life, and that's what I want for my business. And it's because I know that I'm capable of it, and I know that it's something I was put on this earth to do. So hopefully everyone after this, if you take away one thing, no matter what your BHAG is, it's to go write it down and read it every single morning, because so that it almost elevates you throughout the day.
I love that. I think that's a great exercise. I think we are getting some questions here. Was there a key moment in your career path that you felt held you back, and what did you do to get over it?
That's a really good question. I would say, in my career path, as in, I'll give you two answers depending on how you were phrasing it. So, when I was in college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do in terms of like first job out of college, or even in high school, I didn't know what jobs I should be getting. And that really held me back, because you're kind of like a ping pong ball that's constantly bouncing around. And if you could just focus and you knew what you wanted to do, it'd be easy, because then you can try to make a decision. But I really didn't know where I wanted to end up. And I felt like that caused a lot of challenge in my life, because then you're kind of just floating aimlessly. So for me, what I did was I just started reading books. I started researching all these topics and all these emotions and feelings that I had, and just started reading books that would basically solve the problem for me. And when I did that, I stumbled upon a bunch of business books, self-development books, self-help books, whatever it was, where people were putting years worth of knowledge into this 2-hour long book that I could either listen to or read. And I felt like that solved so many of my problems, because if I got bumped off the right path, it put me right back on the right path, and then could almost kind of keep spreading my wings and finding what I wanted to do.
Lacey, how long did it take you to start your business from the ground up?
Good question. Well, once I thought of the idea, and once I had, my partners in place and everything was pretty much ready, it was pretty quick. I only took about, I'd say, a month to get it going, just of figuring out how everything was going to be and what I was going to be doing in my day-to-day. I did the research on, starting all the paperwork and forming the S corporation, or whatever you want to do, the LLC. So I think that whole process took me about a month, but you really can't boil it down like that, because if I didn't have my college experiences, if I didn't have my high school experiences, I wouldn't have been able to make a move that quickly, because I wouldn't have had the knowledge and the frame of mind to be confident in my decision. So it was really just a lifelong time decision that led to me starting Indigo.
Okay, we've got Daniel is asking, what personal qualities do you view as your strengths and weaknesses? Ooh, this is a tough one. It's kind of like an interview question.
I love that question. That's awesome. I'll start positive with my strengths. I think not willing to get embarrassed has really helped me over the past few years. And I say that because a lot of people are afraid to look foolish, but the person who asked that question once might be a fool for the day. But if they learn it, they're going to be the smartest person in the room forever. And I really feel like that's been something that has just elevated me, because year one, my questions to people who were in the industry, to clients, to vendors, they were terrible. People probably walked away from those conversations and said, guy's an idiot. Like, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. But now, because I got those foolish questions out of the way, it's really set me up for making my questions better and better and better and better as the years go on. So I think being able to be okay with looking stupid, and whether I'm posting a video on social media or talking to a classroom of people like now, it's just not, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of everybody leaving this call and being like, man, that guy stunk. I don't care. I just don't have a bone in my body that cares about that. And then that's part one of that. And then I think part two would be, you got to have an ability to execute. Ideas are the easy part. I think of an idea every single day that I could use to change my company, but you have to be able to execute on that and pull the trigger so that you're actually incorporating it into your life. And then for weaknesses, I am definitely a control freak and a perfectionist in certain times. And that might sound great and all, but it really isn't, because that doesn't scale. You can't have a team of people working for you and look over everybody's shoulder and saying, is this good? Oh, is that done correctly? You have to have a level of trust. So it's taken me it took me 5 years to be able to develop that much trust for my team, and being okay that mistakes are going to happen. And, the saying that I learned that really helped me become less of a control freak is 80% done by somebody else is 100% freaking awesome. And I say that because that 80% might mean that it's not to your level, it's not perfect, but because someone else is doing it, and you give them that freedom, it means you're not a control freak and you can let your business grow.
This leads me to my next question, which is, you kind of touched on it, and that's failure. There's a school of thought that if you're not failing, then you're not growing, that you need to fail so that you can learn from those experiences. And if you're not failing, you're not learning. How do you address that, Ethan?
I think it's very accurate that you need to. I think failure means that you're trying stuff. You're throwing stuff at the whiteboard. You're trying to figure it out. So I definitely agree with that. The one note that, our cliffhanger that I'll put on that really though, is it's better to learn from other people's mistakes than your mistakes. So if you get this amazing advice, and someone's telling you, don't do it that way, a lot of times, something I didn't do was I didn't look into why that they were suggesting that, why that was the path that they're saying. And that's something that I do now. Whenever I get advice from a coach or a mentor, I definitely take it more seriously, even if the way that I think of doing it correctly comes to my mind quicker. So I would say you always want to go off of other people's failures than yours to start. But if you're just trying to be perfect, especially in business, it doesn't work. It truly does not work. You're not going to be trying enough, and you're going to be too scared to try anything. I fail every day. We mess up projects. We ruin relationships with clients by accident. But when you're doing so much at once, that stuff is going to happen, and you have to be willing to be okay with it.
We have another question from Lacey. What advice would you give a person if they were to start a small business, and how would you encourage them?
Well, thing one that I would tell you is, just so you know, no matter what business you start, your vision of it is probably going to change a little bit as you get it started. And that is totally okay. When I started Indigo, I had this whole idea of how everything was going to be. The interaction with clients, the interaction with vendors, everything was going to be positive and happy. And when stuff started to not be like that, I was like, what is going on here? But what I felt like really helped me was when I had that clear vision and that clear BHAG, if you will, I was very firm with that being my end goal. And I have been very firm with that. But I've gotten very flexible in the details, on the day-to-day, on what that looks like. It might change from year to year of what I'm normally doing in a business, but the vision is staying true no matter what. So I definitely think you should keep that in mind. And on top of that, don't be afraid. Just try some stuff, test some stuff out. You don't have to have the perfect pick of exactly what business you're going to do, because at the end of the day, it is going to be a small business. And if you feel like starting something and switching it to something else the next month, for now, that's okay. You can't go on that trajectory forever, but it's great for you now because you're young and you want to test stuff out and you want to figure out what works for you and what you enjoy doing. That's really the whole key, to get to what you like doing, enjoy doing, and what you're good at.
But if there were, 3 things that they could do to come up with a business plan, to have a certain amount of money, to have a mentor, what are some of the things that students can do? Like you said, ideas are a dime a dozen. We can all come up with ideas. It's the execution. So say one of our students has an idea. What are 3 things that they can do to start that journey, to even consider, because a business is a risk, inevitably. What is it, like 50% of all businesses fail?
Probably more than that, but the first thing I would recommend is TTP. What does that stand for? Talk to people. And I say that because I think right away, when someone has an idea for something, they like to shell up. They like to hold it close to their heart. To me, that's the worst thing you can do. Nobody nowadays is going to think of Google when they haven't held any type of tech company before. So when you're sharing these ideas with people and you're brainstorming with your friends, with mentors, with people on LinkedIn, wherever, I promise you, your idea is going to go from here and being average to only getting better. So the first thing is talk to as many people you can about it, and make sure you trust them and make sure that they're people who you respect and hopefully can help. But when you do that, it's going to give you more clarity on what your actual business is that you're creating. From there, I think something that everyone should do, and I just mentioned it, but do this early on, and I didn't do this early on, is create a LinkedIn. People on LinkedIn are the nicest people in the world. There's a lot of people at companies that might be in the same industry as you that will give you the time of day because you're a young person and you seem interested in business. I have reached out to companies that are doing $20 million plus, all from one LinkedIn message saying, hey, my name's Ethan. I'm trying to do this. Would you hop on a call with me for 5 minutes? And so many people do that. So that does kind of go back to the whole talk to people thing, but it's going to really help you refine your idea and what you want to do. And the last one is go on places like YouTube, go on places like ChatGPT, brainstorm and watch videos to educate yourself further so that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into.
We're almost getting ready to wrap up our questions, and we are going to do our giveaway before we end this live learning session. So if you guys, there it is. So Ethan and Indigo Promotions is generously donating this Bluetooth speaker, and the winner is going to have it delivered to their residence or school or wherever they are. So we're super excited about this. And we do have another question from Daniel. Are there any expectations you've had about your career that turned out to be different from reality / your everyday job?
That's a great question. I think, I would say early on for me, and this is going to be very specific to what I do, but I love selling. Like, I love talking to people and getting people to buy from me. That's one of my core strengths and something that I've been decently good at. On top of customer service, just anything that's client facing and really interacting with the people that are buying from me on a daily basis. So year one, I was like, all right, I'm going to be doing this 24/7. Unfortunately, that's only half of the business. There's a lot of boring stuff that I felt like really went into it that I had to do because it's part of the game that I just wasn't anticipating. Whether it's bookkeeping, stuff with accounting, stuff with numbers, all stuff that didn't really fall into my genius zone. And it was something that I had to get used to because year one, it's easy to do all the fun stuff and to focus on the fun stuff. But as you grow, you have to do a little bit of everything so that you're kind of keeping the business balance. And I didn't know that year one, but now I know that year 5, and now I'm just used to, having a balance of each kind of category of my business. So I would definitely say that. And I think you don't really have to focus on that when you're just starting a company, because you can really, do the quote unquote, your fun stuff mainly. But as you grow, it starts to get more difficult to do that every day.
And you learn a lot about how to become a leader too, because it's not just you running your business. Now you have a team of people that help you run your business.
Absolutely. And it's completely different too. It's at the end of the day, it's a lot of personalities, it's a lot of people, and it's a lot of problems that pile up on a day-to-day basis. But I think you kind of mold yourself into that type of person that can handle all of that and handle having to lead a team regardless of how big it is. Whether it's 3 people or 30 people, you're going to have issues that pop up every single day.
Okay, we do have a question from Fox. What would you advise for people that have failed in a business but still want to succeed in that business or a new one?
So write down every single thing that you did incorrectly and learn from every single thing. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to, not be successful at something, your, first or second try or whatever. But what's not okay is making that mistake multiple times over and over again. That means you didn't learn anything. And I think that can sometimes be forgotten about. And, it's cool to fail. It's cool to try a million times at something, but you have to make sure that you're getting valuable takeaways no matter what it was that you failed at. There has to be something that you learned. You're either winning or you're learning. It's one of the two. It's not a loss, but you have to make sure that you are learning from all of your mistakes that you make, regardless of how small or how big it was.
We're getting to the end of our questions, which means I think I'm going to try and share my screen so I can spin the wheel, because we do want to give that speaker away. And I want to make sure that I have everyone on this. I think the administrators here have to let me share my screen. So somebody let Lucy Lopez share her screen. And so far I have Lacey, Judith, Fox, and Daniel. So am I missing anyone on the call who is eligible to win this speaker? All right, here we go. I'm going to spin. And the winner is Judith.
Judith, congratulations.
All right, so as we wrap up, don't forget, you will earn 100 points for attending today's session. Give it a couple days, and that will show up on the platform. We do have more live learning events coming up, the next one being February 20th, Women in Technology. That should be an exciting one. And if there is a topic or industry that you'd like to hear about, let us know, and we will find an expert in that field and organize a live event like this. So once again, Ethan, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for sharing your story. This was super fun, and we hope you learned a lot.